Hey everyone, welcome to Magic the Gathering for Advanced Players. I'm Matt Sperling. Today we're going to be looking at a match of Limited. In general, what's our approach to studying this type of match? That's what I'm trying to bring you in this series, is kind of my approach to watching with an eye towards improving my game, not just enjoying the game. Here we're going to do a little bit of both. It's an interesting game we're going to watch, but also I want to look at some of the decision points in the game and then also some of the larger strategic concerns around what if there's a draft strategy that I haven't even thought of in draft, a weird archetype, a combo deck. How do I interact with that? But also when I see that in the wild, even if I'm not the opponent, in this case a commentator is commenting on what they think about this deck. How do I process that? The fact that it wasn't even on my radar as someone who played in the Pro Tour. So we'll get into that in a moment. If you're enjoying this series, please subscribe, share the videos. I appreciate that. Pause right now and subscribe if you've already jumped into it. If not, enjoy this video, and if you like it afterwards, please subscribe at that point. First thing I want to note, they're claiming that this player seated here in the foreground is not Tom Martell, but you be the judge. Well, also, we're watching at 1.5x speed, as I usually do. You'll notice from 2 videos ago. Like I've said in that video, that may be too slow or too fast for what you're looking to do, but in my experience, paper Magic is slow enough that 1.5x, you'll probably be about the right pace if you're pausing and reflecting when those decision points come up. But first, let's see. They're saying this is not Tom Martell.
And I'm like, well, that's not me. Obviously, it's not me. I mean, it's my name. It's not very often that someone.
Yeah, so I just disagree that that's not Tom Martell. So let's move. Let's get the label up. So they said that's Mick Max or Max Mick, but we're going to go Tom Martell. All right, let's see. So we've got slivers, we've got red-white aggro against this 4-color combo, 4-color mill. A deck that was popularized by Sam Black, invented by Sam Black, and it's not an archetype that you're going to read about if you go open, what are the archetypes in Modern Horizons? Well, you've got green-white go wide, and you've got, black-green graveyard matter. It's not one of those archetypes. It's a different kind of combo deck cobbled together from different pieces. There's different versions of it you might get. Martell has a splice version here where it's using Storm and Replicate, and then it has a copy of the Everdream that splices to draw a card, and a copy of the Blade Splicer card that splices to make a Golem. And both of those will be relevant in this game. So that's interesting, and that's one of the things that makes this game interesting. But let's take a look.
Calls out Riley not talking to me. And they go, Riley Knight. I'm like, well, that's probably me. And I turn around and this guy played Magic, and he shook me by the hand and made his little daughter. They're having a great time at the zoo. It was great. Had a great time.
It's at least a small favorite to be me with the last name. Like once they say Riley Knight, you're at least 50-50 to be talking to you.
Yeah. There aren't many other Riley Knights, actually. There's a famous Australian footballer, plays for the Adelaide Crows called Riley Knight. Recently eclipsed me as the top Google result, Huey. Are there other William Jensens? Because I know Reed Duke is an ice hockey player.
Well, Jensen is the Smith of Denmark. That's the most common name. Yep. So I'm sure there's plenty of William Jensens out there.
Are there any notables? Let's do a quick Google search here.
Obviously, I'm the most notable William Jensen.
William Jensen, Wikipedia.org, is an American Magic Colin the Gathering player. He won Pro Tour Boss in 2003.
All right, Roshan Mulligan's on the draw. After bottoming what I presume is a land, is left with Plains, Mountain, Imposter the 6 Pride, the 3/1 for 2, and Answered Prayers. So you're mulling to 6. You don't love a 4-land hand in an aggro deck, but if that's what you're dealt with your 2-drop, 3-drop, you got to keep it.
And it's finished in the top 8 of 4 additional Pro Tours. All right, yeah, top 4. No, William Jensen, IMDb. All right,
that's me.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, of course it's me.
As this game gets underway, but I feel like it's much more interesting to talk about you being on Not Necessarily the News in 1989.
Oh, no, that's not me. Enter the Battlefield, though, see? That's me.
And Magic the Interviewing. All right, well, we'll come back to this. Not Necessarily the News in 1989. I want to hear more about that.
Slivers.
Right now, what are we looking at? We've got an Imposter of the 6th Pride getting up and about, but Mick Max now, the man with 2 first names, double Talisman into Wall of Blossoms. Love that.
Okay, so something subtle there that, I picked up watching the video for the first time earlier today, but I might not have, sometimes you're going to pick up stuff like this, sometimes you're not. When you're playing Wall of Blossoms and Talisman in a turn, you might want to play Wall of Blossoms first before you play a land, and the second Talisman. You may draw a different land. You could even draw a Talisman that makes blue that could be in this deck. You may draw a different 2-drop you want to play, and then hold the Talisman. Those were all available choices to Tom Martell, but Tom chose to play a land which allowed him to play the Talisman and play Wall of Blossoms with a red up. And if you know the cards in the format, as you should if you're drafting in this format competitively, you know that basically means he's got at least one Firebolt in the deck. Now here it's top 8, they may have an open deck list, but whatever. This play gives you information. This player certainly seems competent, playing a complex archetype and sequences in a way to cantrip with a red open. And so if you see this, I think if you're playing at the top of your game, your brain's got to be thinking, what could my opponent have? What might my opponent have for 1 red mana? What might my opponent hoping to draw for 1 red mana? And it seems like Firebolt is that card in this particular format, but in a different format, it might be something like Lightning Bolt or whatever. Just something that to note. These are the little things that I think they're not critical. Obviously, you can play this game perfectly fine, maybe even not make any mistakes, or not. That may not even be relevant. You're playing at 100%, though. You're going to want to think about that if the opponent's working their mana in a way to leave a certain type of mana up in a spot that actually does sacrifice something. The opponent's losing some optionality should they draw a different 2-drop.
Love Wall of Blossoms.
Oh, yeah.
That was my preview card for Modern Horizons, and I was very happy with
Yeah,
that.
of course. Yeah, very, very happy to have the green wall.
Some technical difficulties, so bear with me for a second. Okay, there it's back.
With this slivers list, although not a whole lot of slivers on board just now.
So all we missed there during the technical difficulty when my computer decided to go slow, there was a free roll attack. I mean, attacking the 3/1 into the Wall of Blossoms, understanding this format. There's not removal that destroyed the tapped creature where that becomes a poor play or a reverse free roll. Instead, it's like, well, let me attack. My opponent's probably going to block, but you never know. So, just kind of should be almost an automatic play for someone experienced in the format, but worth discussing nonetheless. And then Answer Prayers comes down, just a great 3-drop against a deck that's trying to play cards like Wall of Blossoms to shore up the ground.
What's that? An Answered Prayers? Get over out here, Epen Roshan with this slivers list, although not a whole lot of slivers on board just now. What's that? An Answered Prayers? Get
Limited, but because of that, maybe it's a bit underdrafted. Answered Prayers is one of the best cards if you're able to get a cheap low curve aggro deck, because it's kind of a 3/3 flyer for 3.
almost. I mean, if you're hitting it consistently in that aggro deck.
Right,
yeah.
right. And the aggro deck's trying to kill quick, so if you peter out in the late game, obviously it can be a problem. It's obviously really bad when this happens. When you miss a turn of attacking.
Yeah.
So presumably, every creature now is an 8-point life swing.
Yeah, that's pretty huge. Gaining 2 extra life, getting in for 6 in the air.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of disagree with Huey that Answered Prayers is really bad when you have a second one on turn 4. I mean, I think it's fine. You're going to get the damage back in short order. I mean, if the following turn you play a creature, you hit for 6, you're basically back to par with playing Windrake, which is fine. And then now you've got these 2 threats that are tough to deal with, tough to block. So, I mean, I don't think this is really the fail case for Answered Prayers, not yet at least.
The Bear, the play now for Micmax, who is all dressed up and nowhere to go, 6 mana, and not able to do anything better than just a Mother Bear on his turn there. Lancer Sliver in hand here for Roshan means that he will be able to trigger those Answered Prayers. Gets down on his knees and pray, waiting for that final moment. And Mick hears the words that he cannot say, take 6, buddy. Roshan getting on the front foot here, Huey.
Yeah, it's worth noting, though, life gain is really strong in Limited, but where life gain is at its worst is in an extremely aggressive deck.
Because you're not looking to grind out the long game. That life buffer is less relevant for you.
Right, like a control deck versus an aggro deck usually doesn't come down to the aggro deck having a couple last points of life to finish the game. It comes down to them overwhelming the control deck, getting to do 20 damage before the control deck can find their bond cards, or in some cases, a lot of times control decks have very strong cards, but they cost a lot of mana. So if you're able to kill your opponent before they're able to just cast all their cards, you get virtual card advantage, right?
Yeah, and usually you're losing by miles rather than inches. And look at this. Did you see this huge Weather the Storm? That was Storm count 5, I think, because we went Cantrip, Talisman, the Enchantment, and then...
All right, so Huey makes a point about life gain, and then Tom Martell, the opponent, plays a life gain spell of a different type. So Huey was talking about Answered Prayers, how, well, yeah, it gains life for the aggro deck, but life gain is actually at its worst in an aggro deck. I agree in this matchup. I think in general, though, Answered Prayers is actually not quite as simple as Huey defines it, because you have life gain stapled onto a 3/3 flyer that can't block most of the time. And that's a different kind of life gain, because you're just so much more likely to end up in a race when you're spending mana on cards that are like 3/3 flying, can't block, that I think the life gain is actually really relevant. If Answered Prayers was 3 mana 3/3 without flying, and it said, whenever a creature comes into play under your control, you gain a life. I agree that the life gain there, not super attractive for an aggro deck, but I think that in this case, the fact that it has that ability, in general, if I'm looking at the card Answer Prayers, in this matchup, though, Huey's absolutely right. It's not that relevant. And then Weather the Storm, I think a card that you're this is Magic for advanced players. You've thought about limited. You've played a lot of limited. You've kind of trained yourself. A pure life gain spell is probably not something I want to add to my limited deck. And in fact, people still feel that way about Weather the Storm for the most part. Does it have a time and a place? Here we've got a bunch of 2-mana spells, talismans, and kind of a combo deck that's going to cycle through its deck and needs to gain life along the way. So there's an opponent. When you have a strategy that's a combo type of strategy, a different strategy than normal nuts and bolts control or nuts and bolts aggro, mid-range, whatever, cards you're gonna have to reevaluate cards, and you may not ever find a deck like this Sam Black, Max Mick, Tom Martell strategy if you're not thinking about how cards might have different applications. So I think that part of what makes this an interesting deck, an interesting video to watch.
The Weather Storm,
So four,
excuse me,
12
4.
life.
That's huge. That's a lot of life, and that's going to be super relevant here.
The problem is, Max is low on cards, right? He does have a lot of life, but that card's going to have to be really strong. Otherwise, it's pretty much just a top deck battle, and every creature that Roshan draws, it represents 6 damage at a minimum.
But still, I mean, that has bought Mick a lot of time, even though he's got one card in hand.
Two attacks from the 2 Answered Prayers, which is good.
Yes. How good is it? We'll find out. Reprobation holding back that Lancer Sliver here.
And this is a nightmare. Just, okay, 6 land, go.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we get to the next turn, that 6-land go was not just like I got nothing. There was a tank there thinking about what to cast, because Goblin War Party was the card in Roshan's hand. Goblin War Party, if I'm Roshan, I play it this turn. Yes, my Answered Prayers get to connect, but I don't get to kick it and get the 2/2 haste goblins. I just get the 1/1 version. It's not automatic that would be better to wait. I mean, if you think about if opponent, Tom Martell was at, say, 12, then I'm very, very likely to just want to get the 3 goblins out, get my 6 damage in. Now my opponent has is facing a different kind of challenge. The fact that the opponent just played Weather the Storm to go back up to 26 makes me actually like Roshan's play. Roshan has 2 lands in hand, a Goblin War Party, so he's going to be able to kick it next turn. And at 26 life, what you got to recognize, so this is like switching gears. I mean, before the Weather the Storm got cast, it was anything that could put a creature out, draw it, cast it, attack for 6. Once the life total became 26, now draw a card with Kicker. It's actually better to wait, because there's no way that these Answered Prayers are going to be able to attack every single turn for the rest of the game. Almost no way that's going to happen, right? Because there's only one creature in hand. So Erosion would have to draw a creature every single turn. So you're going to have to take a break at some point. If you take it now, then the following turn when you kick Goblin War Party, you can get in, 4 or 5 damage. Remember, this 0-1 with Reprobation will become a 1-2. So you wanted to be doing this combat math in your head, right? Block the 3-1, which will be a 4-2. Block one of the Goblin tokens. That leaves 2 other Goblin tokens, and that's 5 extra damage. If I just had the Goblins, I can still make the attack, trade off, block, and it's 2 damage. It's an extra 3 damage. For waiting, it seems worth it to me, so I like that play by Roshan. Even though if the life totals were different, I wouldn't like that play.
Yeah.
Answered Prayers, 3/3 flyer, huh?
Unanswered Prayers, by the look
Foot in your
of
mouth,
it.
Huey.
What's that?
Foot in your mouth, Huey.
Yeah. Not its usual position for you, my friend. But we'll see now if Apen can...
Okay, here's another thing. I think these subtle information giveaways are really important to highlight, because I think it's just not at the layer that some of my viewers are thinking, and I want to get you guys thinking in that way. Here you have Scry 2, draw a card, top, and then play a land that makes any color mana. So the opponent has like a bunch of green and black from the talismans, at least 1 red, 1 blue, so 1 white. So it's going to be a second white, second blue, or second red that the opponent's looking for. If this is top 8, we've got deck list, then I might know exactly what's going on. In this case, it's the opponent has Pondering Mage, and if I had deck list, I might know that Pondering Mage is coming. So that changes, how aggressive do I want to be with my attacks? Well, my ground creatures are about to be less relevant. Maybe I want to sacrifice a couple of them to get more damage. if I know my opponent has a double white Wrath in hand or something like that, I mean, the probability of that card showing up in the near future is very high. So not like the most relevant card in this, not the most relevant feature of the game in this particular game, but that play pattern really important. Why did my opponent top this land with 8 mana out? Why did the 9th mana get topped? If you're not thinking about that, then you're gonna miss stuff.
Stitch something together. There's another land. Oh, what's this? Look at this. Goblin War Party, and everyone's invited. Now that doesn't answer those prayers, though, does it?
So I think it turns them on, but doesn't pump them. Pretty sure.
I thought it was when you cast a creature spell. Let's have a look.
I think it's when a creature enters the battlefield under your control.
Ah, okay. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay, so they wake up 3 times each.
Yeah, so it's worth 6 life, but I'm pretty sure they don't actually receive the bonus from the. I'm very sure.
No, because the trigger would still be on the stack when.
Right.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
it should be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 damage down to 16.
All right, big attacks now. Those goblins, one of them getting blocked by the wall, Mother Bear trading off with the imposter here by the look of things. I mean, Nick's got a lot of mana.
Did I miscount? Why did he take 11? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
And now Pondering Mage as well. Let's have a look at the top 3 here. Do you know what annoys me about Pondering Mage, Huey?
What?
The flavor text.
What is the flavor text? I don't
Pondering,
know about
the flavor text of Pondering Mage is never leave the future to fate. This is on a card that allows you to shuffle your library.
I have to mute it when they're talking about the flavor text during a competitive game.
impacting the future.
Okay.
Sure, but then there is still an element of fate that you're leaving the future
still
to.
talking
I
about
would
it.
say. Better late than never. Mr. Benjamin Stark has joined us here.
Looks like Ben ran back, if I had to guess.
Yeah, the monorail's pretty slow. I went to get some.
Okay, so background, because we're now going to transition to talk about kind of higher level strategy as Ben comes in cold and starts commenting about strategic stuff. So we've been talking about kind of tactics, right? Like, what do I attack with, etc. There'll still be a little bit more of that. But as Ben comes in, the backstory here is Ben has gone to get lunch and for somehow lost track of how to get back, and he's late in classic Ben S fashion. I love Ben S, so this, that's just who he is, right? He's a little bit like the absent-minded professor. Fine. So he's showing up late. He's going to come in and give us a kind of a cold reading of the game and then talk through some of the strategy. But that's why he's jumping into the booth mid-game.
Some food with the round off, but my fault.
Is it warm outside?
Who else?
It is.
Wait, time out. Who else's fault would it be?
What's up?
You said my fault. Who else's fault would it be?
Obviously my
Riley's?
fault. I'm sorry. My bad. Sorry you had to watch a few minutes of Modern Horizons Limited, Huey.
I'm not complaining.
Poor old Ben here. He's sweating like a... what's the saying? What animal sweats? Like they say sweating like a...
Can everyone hear me? Because I
No,
can't hear
you're
anything.
I thought Riley was about to say sweating like a whore in church when I watched it. I was like, I guess he was reaching for sweating like a pig, and he couldn't find that either. But
You're all good.
can hear you.
We got you.
Okay, cool.
We got you. Do you want to hear yourself?
Yeah.
There you go, buddy.
Much better.
Just plugged you right in. Plugged you right in. Got you going.
Oh, cool. So here's that red-white aggro slivers deck we were talking about.
Yep. Answered prayers, getting it done. We had Max Mick. Let's bring Ben up to speed here. Max Mick buffeted his life total with a Weather the Storm for 4, and then looked to stabilize. But now a timely Goblin War Party off the top has really got the party started. And Epen has continued to push further.
so something slightly interesting tactically. Do I want to sacrifice a goblin to deal 1 damage here if I'm Roshan? It likely depends on how wide I intend to go with the in future turns, where if I save that attack, then maybe I can maybe it's 2 attacks later that there's more damage. Do I have ways to pump the whole squad? If I have additional copies of Goblin War Party or the Rocks veteran that's commonly in this archetype? So I don't have the deck list in front of me. You kind of have to know the deck list. Some of the time it's going to be worth getting the damage, and then of course it's also relevant. Like if 1 damage is changing the clock, then I'm going to want to get that damage in regardless of what else is in my deck. Here with an opponent at 15, drop is about to head to 9, I believe, or 8 if you attack with the goblins. Not super relevant. It's probably just pretty thin either way. But that's the kind of thing you want to think about. What else is in my deck? Does the 1 life really matter? Is something going to really make me miss that goblin? Or am I very likely to be attacking the following turn with all my creatures in a way that goblin would just get through as I get the damage back? And here it's not clear that next turn the ground creatures are going to be attacking. So let's say that he was going to play 2 creatures this turn. Next turn it would be pretty clear that everything was going to attack again. You wouldn't necessarily need to sacrifice the goblin right now. You can get that damage in next turn.
Further and further ahead now with this onslaught. And let's see what he can find for top of his library. Max Mick needs something. Got to dig in. He's on 8. Even on 30.
Doesn't look like I missed much. This game doesn't look close at all.
Well, there were a couple turns where Epen was passing without playing creatures, and Max Mick gained 12 life with the Weather Storm up to 26, where if he had like 9 mana in play, where if he had strung a couple like real heavy hitters together, it might have been a closer game.
As it is, Mick now pressed for answers. Gonna have to find something. Continues to dig through the deck here. But Epen, with the trustworthy scout still in hand, still going to be able to clip through for 6 in the air. Huey taking a sneaky drink here. I think people would have heard the sound of the carbonated beverage you're getting into there.
I'm far too professional. I hit it.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
He put the mic up.
Did you
Can
know?
see?
Did you mute your microphone?
No,
Put
he
it up.
Oh, you put it up so people didn't hear the slurping and burping.
I didn't hear anything until you ruined
Until
it.
I ruined it.
Huey not only plays perfectly in Magic, but also at the commentary desk.
I don't know if that's true. That's a big call.
I'll leave it up to the suits. I'm not one of the suits today.
You're not-
Only you are, in fact.
That is true, actually. Although this is my bad jacket.
Why didn't you wear your good jacket?
I lost my good jacket at the last Mythic Championship. I took it off when I went to hoist Toffel in the air when he won. He's a settle beyond reality. And then left it on the table when I went back. It was gone. So now I'm in this.
Pretty scary when an opponent with a handful of cards and discarding a card as strong as Pondering Mage. It's not crazy given that these are flyers are really what this game's going to come down to. But I'd be a little concerned. Or again, it's just you want to incorporate that into my understanding of what the opponent likely has in hand. If they discard a card as strong as Pondering Mage with 8 lands out, that's going to change my understanding of what the opponent likely has in hand.
This tatty old thing, it's got a hole in the back as well. Look at that.
I didn't notice it until you showed me.
Yeah.
I think the suit looks great. Nobody will see the hole.
Thanks very much, Huey.
What about the shirt?
This shirt.
That was my shirt.
Oh, your shirt.
I was talking about the suit. Come on, I'm a fashion icon.
That's
Did
what
you
he
see
says.
what Marshall and Luis were wearing? They got shirts like me.
Yeah. Yep, they're right in your lane.
I'm a trendsetter.
You're setting trends. You are, Ben Stark. You definitely are.
So
All right, attacks now with Roshan Epen now.
And
Rock's veteran coming in. Sorry, go ahead, Ben.
Oh no, look at the power of answered prayers. I mean, those are the creatures that Max really wanted to kill. Killing that sliver didn't really accomplish much of anything, but he didn't really have a choice because there are not creatures on Max's turn, so with sorcery speed removal, you can't hit answered prayers.
They're doing a lot of work. Mick down to 2, unable to stabilize in the air. Those goblins not doing much, and that Rhino fella is going to have something to say next turn as well.
Yeah, that Rhino's got to go, or it's going to tap a blocker and turn both of those goblins into lethal threats.
All right, well, there is double fireball's going to take it out. And we'll see if Mick can hope to stabilize. He's another Withered Storm.
Wow, well, stays alive. I mean, it's not that much life. I mean, it's 12 or something, so he's going to go up to a healthy life total here.
What did he do?
He weathered the storm, splicing Everdream.
I wonder if it was. What was that for? Like 11? It might have been worth just playing Everdream, because being at 14 is a better breakpoint against 6 flying.
Yeah, it's a very good point.
I'm not sure, but he did it very quickly.
I mean, drawing 3 cards, splicing it onto the Storm is pretty good.
Drawing 3?
Yeah, you splice it onto Weather the Storm, and then each copy
Oh.
of Weather the
You
Storm
know what?
has the ability to
I
draw a
didn't
card.
know
I didn't know that either. I
Yeah.
played a lot of Modern Horizons Limited, like 50, maybe 100 drafts.
Yeah.
I've never pulled that off.
Yeah, well, Max Mick living the dream here. Nice full hand, up to 11. So
So that part's really interesting to me. Ben admitting, I played 50, 100 drafts. I wasn't aware of that interaction where you're splicing onto a Storm card, or in this format, Replicate, also in the format. You splice onto Replicate or Storm, and all the copies also get the spliced text. In this case, draw a card. Ben really prepares almost more than anyone in Limited. Plays a ton. You heard him say in the order of 50 or 100 drafts, and just didn't play the card Weather the Storm enough in this type of deck with it. Just didn't know the interaction. And so for me, my takeaway there, I think, is that Ben's preparation is probably a little bit too much kind of doing the same type of thing, using his known existing strategy and honing it. It's probably a little bit too much of that and not enough of like exploring what's out there. If you have the time to do 100 drafts, I think you ought to be experimenting with some of these other cards, at least sideboarding in Weather the Storm against red-white. So I think there's an indicator that maybe, and I'm not for sure, but an indicator that maybe Ben's preparation involved too much of either bucketing cards into not a great card versus this is a playable card, unplayable card, or just this strategy of combo deck not being on his radar at all. And so, you're going to miss stuff no matter how much you practice. Like, this is an archetype that it seems like he kind of missed. And Huey as well, despite his many drafts. I can't say that in my preparation I became, aware of this combo type of control deck. So it's something that we all miss despite preparing for a pro tour as pro players. It makes it interesting.
what's better, the extra life or the...
3 cards almost has to be better.
Yeah. I was with Huey on it was close before the 3 extra cards. Two extra cards because you get one either way. But with 2 extra cards, it's probably not.
I think he drew another Weather the Storm, too.
Yeah, I think he's got a couple of them here. He's got a couple of them.
Well, he's played 2 thus far.
This is awesome. This is not like a showcasing cool decks. This is the top 8 of the
I think this is a Sam Black strategy.
Yeah, Sam Black special here. Three copies of Weather the Storm.
Does he? How many of the Stream of Thought does he have? The one that cycles, shuffles everything back in.
1.
I mean, I like this archetype. I've never really seen it pulled off with Weather the Storm and the Splice card he just had. But definitely you can play Stream of Thought and just dig through your deck very rapidly in this format.
How much life has he gained?
I don't know. I can't do that kind of math.
A whole stack, right? Like we've had 2 copies of Weather the Storm cast? 3 now? Oh no, okay. Fireball being flashed back now. Splicing Everdream onto it.
Firebolt with kicker.
So here I am talking about the game not even being close, and Max is sitting here playing a combo deck.
It's pretty sick. I mean, the stuff you can do in this format is very silly indeed. It is a very silly place. All right, here's that Rocks Veteran. It's the second copy. And how does he even want to play this? Just getting in there. Yep, all right. In for 6. He's on 36 life as well.
Yeah, but I'm guessing Max is trying to deck Roshan, so I don't think Roshan's life total super relevant. So generally, this archetype is about stream of thought to deck people and shuffle back in your good cards. I mean, if you have 2 of them, you mill them for 4/8, shuffle back in your good cards, you draw the second, you shuffle back in the first. Basically, you're just a grindy control deck with all the good removal in this format, ways to draw cards, good defense. I've drafted decks like this, control decks that did that. I never played Weather the Storm. I don't know if I'm missing out. Is that something Sam Black likes, the game life?
Yeah, my understanding is that I was talking to Autumn in Barcelona, and they said that I think Sam had invented it and they drafted it.
Emma Handy also was on that tech too.
Yep, and I think that group really liked it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've never got around to. I haven't drafted it since the MC, but
I mean, I've drafted a lot of 3 to 5 color control base green in this format. Like I said, I just never thought to put Weather the Storm in the deck. But I guess that's why Sam's the innovator.
oh, I've drafted plenty of control.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the format's not that fast and aggressive.
Let's be clear. Patrick Chapin is the innovator. Sam Black is, a good deck builder, but he's not the innovator.
So I don't particularly think you need life. But I guess if you're going to always be drawing cards and you're going to storm off like that.
Autumn's in the chat and they said, also 3 of us hard forced it at the MC.
Yeah.
Probably all 3.
Yep, all 3 of them. I got a chance to catch up with them as well. I'll tell you what, they were guarding their secrets very jealously.
Yeah.
Because in coverage, obviously, we're excited. Like, let's talk about this deck. Like, no. Hard no. We'll talk about it on, when the limited rounds are over on day 2 and not beforehand. I mean, Sam was convinced he'd broken it.
I mean, it's a good archetype. But I mean, all these variants of 4-color green and control in this
Sam, worth noting, Sam 0-3'd the draft on day 2, but, thinking he broke it and actually breaking that approach are 2 different things. But, he spent good work and he put in good work and came up with an archetype that most other people didn't have. They liked it so much they forced it. Not ready to say he actually broke it, but, like I said, I think Sam's certainly a player that you'd love to have on your team if he's going to find stuff like that.
format are good archetypes. So it's going to have the potential to win either way. The question is, what is it doing that's different? Which, I guess Weather the Storm, if it's gaining you that much life, might make it really hard for Beatdown to close. Max almost certainly would have lost this game if not for all the extra life he's gained. But it is more complicated than that, because then you have to say, well, if that wasn't Weather the Storm, what would it have been instead?
Yeah.
So Ben in his commentary here is a little bit resistant to the idea that this is something actually new and different. He's kind of saying, well, I play control decks, they're mostly the same, and if that Weather Storm was look good, but what if it was removal instead or something? So I think he's being probably a little bit too dismissive of just, this archetype may be a little bit of a different enough from my ordinary control decks that mill the opponent out that, it's something unique. But I think he's also, I like that he's onto something in terms of, it's not like this is completely new out of left field. It's a step away from a control deck. It's not like these are a pile of all cards that you'd never put in your deck. It's removal, card draw, traditional elements of control. But so I think he's oscillating a little bit between giving the deck designers credit for having found something new and kind of saying, yeah, but it's kind of the same thing you'd do with any of these Bant decks that have some blink effects and some removal, and eventually you find a way to kill. If nothing else, you could probably give a little bit more appreciation for this splice combo that's happened is actually pretty cool.
Flashing back at Mother Bear here. Got a little 2-2. Cubs all grown up, or a couple of them actually. And next up now, Epen. There's that trustworthy scout, but he's got to feel this one.
All right, so here, now that Max, or Tom as I've been calling him, Max has stabilized, but has now been hit to 11. So still stable on this board. It's not lethal now. Roshan draws, plays the creature he had in his hand for a few turns. Has a choice: attack for 6 with the 2 answered prayers, dropping Max to 5, or send in the Rocks Veteran, the 2 goblins, and the Sliver. The battle cry will pump the 2 answered prayers, so guaranteed 2 extra damage at least, with the tap effect on one of the blockers will relieve 4 blockers remaining. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 attackers on the ground, so I'm not going to force do any damage, but it'll give Tom a chance to either block everything or double block the veteran to get that off the board and take 1 from the Lancer Sliver. So that would drop Max to either 2 or 3. So attacking with the rocks doesn't change the answered prayers clock. It's 2 answered prayers attacks are going to finish the job, whether the Rocks Veteran ever attacks or not. The Firebolt in the yard, not too scary because you actually want this Trustworthy Scout to die. You'd be able to go get another one, power up your answer prayers. So you'd love for that to happen. So to me, it's not clear that this attack is going to be worth it. And the Trustworthy Scout would get to join the party the following turn should you not make that attack. And now you're getting potentially, it presents a different attack. So I think it's worth, now that we're slowing down and really analyzing, let's think about what that would look like. Answer Prayers attack for 6 this turn. Max goes down to 5. The following turn, let's say he does something, like let's say he goes off with the mill effect and just says, okay, now it's time to start killing. Let's just, what would that look like? Then the following turn, you got the same attack, but now the Trustworthy Scout's involved. 4 blockers, now 5 attackers, and it's going to force through. If you draw a creature, you're going to have lethal anyways, but let's say you don't draw creatures, you don't have the Trustworthy Scouts. It's not really going to be all that effective. At 5, opponent could even go to 2 and still get the Rocks Veteran off the board. Not going to be all that impressive. It's just not going to move the needle all that much. Now, is another Weather the Storm possible? Absolutely. I think you're still looking to maximize. I think I would still wait. I would choose to wait because I think the Rocks Veteran is going to be better on the following turn, but it doesn't look like it's going to be decisive. But that's what you got to think through. Should I do it this turn or next turn? And getting the answered prayers, I think that trading your Rocks Veteran away for the extra 2 damage, I kind of feel like that's going to be there at some point, or it's just not going to matter. And then the following turn, maybe my red-white deck, maybe I draw a removal spell, and now I can get rid of, let's say, a bear or a Pondering Mage or whatever, or even a 1/1. That's going to actually, I want to have my ground creatures if I've got that kind of removal in my deck. So what's in my deck? I like no attack, all else equal, but it's just, that's how you got to think through it. What's the next turn look like if I don't attack?
I don't know. Is he poised to win? One more attack with the answer prayer. Is that going to be enough here? What does this landscape look like here?
My guess is if this is a very good strategy and Max has got down to the bottom 3 cards of his deck, unless he's gotten extremely unlucky, he'll probably win.
Yeah, and it really just comes down to what he has left in the bag. Right now, this is a lot of damage. The blocks aren't going to be great for Max. He's not taking lethal, I don't think.
Well, he doesn't even take any damage from the ground creatures, right?
Right, which means but the answer prayers are pumped by the rocks too, so he's taking air right down to 3. So like I said, he's not taking lethal, I don't think, unless Roshan has a card in hand that does that final 3 damage. But 3 is not a comfortable life total.
No.
And if Max has Stream of Thought, I'm not sure if he can mill out Roshan right now or not. Sure, he can copy it a couple times, but Red-White hasn't really drawn extra cards. Just from looking at the battlefield, we can see 3, 4, 5, 10, 12. It looks like about 18 cards, so Roshan probably has about 20, 22 cards left in his deck.
Yeah, I counted 20, but...
Sure, so yeah, about 20 cards.
I counted a Goblin token.
So Roshan probably has about 20 cards left in his deck. So, I don't think you're streaming for 5 replicates here.
No, you're right, it's 18. But yeah, I think Max can only get 3.
Right, so he's not decking Roshan in the next, 3, 4, 5 turns. He's not killing him with damage. He can shuffle back in a lot of his key cards. He can shuffle back in Weather the Storm. He can shuffle back in Removal. So
he does have a fistful of cards.
Right, so it really just comes down to what Max has in hand, and maybe what he draws post the Stream of Thought, assuming he has one in his deck.
I wonder if this is one of those situations where Max, it's just like Answered Prayers just happens to be brutal against his deck, because he has reasonable removal, but he just can't kill it because it's all sorcery, and
the deck just can beat more or less anything except these answer prayers.
Right, like sometimes that happens with these kind of strategies.
Certainly that isn't a flaw in the strategy because there's plenty of instant speed removal.
No, I'm just mean with his specific deck.
Right, with his specific deck, we saw double Firebolt and Settle from Reality, none of which interact with answer prayers.
Right.
As well as a bunch of Wall of Blossoms, Pondering Mage, Mother of Bear, Spring Moon Druids, all ground creatures. So specifically, flyers that can't be targeted on Max's turn may be his kryptonite.
So stack of lands in play here for Max Mick on a perilously low life total, just 2 life to play with. Needs to find a way to, survive first of all, and then get himself back into it. I'm not smart enough to figure out how that's going to happen.
Do we have access to Max's list?
Absolutely, my
friend.
friend.
I would love to take a look at this.
Absolutely, have a look at that. Only 1 copy of Stream of Thought in Max Mick's list, 3 copies of Weather the Storm. And we've seen him do all sorts of silly nonsense with that Everdream, splicing it onto Weather the Storm as well.
He does have 1 Magnetic Sinkhole, so just a bit unlucky, I guess, that may have been in the bottom 3 cards.
What kind of sinkhole?
A magnetic sinkhole.
I misheard.
No, he got that one right.
I thought he said magnetic sinkhole.
Oh, magnetic sinkhole.
If you're going to keep trying to correct me, you're going to have to be right about
I asked you to repeat it in case you were correct.
But you're 0 for 2, so I got to teach you a little bit.
That's fair.
A magnetic sinkhole, very different kind of card. All right, here's the Stream of Thought, and Everdream replicated twice.
So he also gets to shuffle in cards, though.
Yes.
So this game could easily end up coming down to what the next couple turns look like after the shuffle in, and I've got to imagine that Max.
Doesn't this game just almost certainly come down to whether or not Roshan draws a creature to attack this turn with the flyers?
Well, sure, of course, if he does, he wins. But let's suppose he doesn't.
Oh, I guess also, is this how this works? It goes 1 at a time. Is that what they're doing? Like, theoretically, the replicate goes like, shuffle, draw 1, shuffle 4 more, draw 1. Yep. So it's also possible that Max can just play Weather the Storm this turn, right?
And how's it be for a turn?
How's he going to do that, however?
I think the replicate might only count once.
I don't know.
I think it might just be for 6. Like, when you replicate a spell, I don't think you can just replicate Shattering Spree for 10 and Grape Shot for 11. I think it's just 1 spell. Like, the replicate is part of the spell. It's not a separate spell. nor is this Splice.
I think you're right.
I'm pretty sure from playing Storm. I played a fair amount of Storm.
Yeah, you weren't listening earlier when there was an incredible Storm match going on with Cedric. I was like, Feely's out there, please speak up.
I wasn't out there.
But no, I think you're right. I'm not 100%, but I think you're right.
But if he draws away the Storm...
He also needs a land, which he may already
No,
have.
he's played a land this turn.
Oh, he has?
As far as I'm aware, he's played a land this turn. I'm pretty sure he played Island.
Okay, well,
That being the case, should he have considered not splicing for one additional copy so he could have some mana available to do things?
a lot of it depends on other things too. Like it's possible he needs to get his deck to be larger than Roshan's deck to even have any chance to win, which maybe just replicating once wasn't enough for that. It probably wasn't.
Right.
Like if he doesn't have another copy.
Right, which he doesn't. I'm looking at his list right now, and he doesn't have any other copies of Mill or Stream of Thought, nothing like that.
Right, so then he...
So as the table judge tries to keep up with what's happening, I'll fill you in. So that was a, looking at the board, interesting situation where, Max doesn't have the mana to mill the opponent out, doesn't have anything that's going to prevent lethal flyers, so has to kind of come up with a different strategy. I'll spend this turn shuffling my graveyard back in, milling for 12, and leaving like 9 cards in the library. If the opponent draws a creature or has a creature, I'm dead, but I can't stop that. And I'll set up for the following. Now, could Max have done it differently? Well, yeah, you could replicate only one time, so shuffle 8 cards back in. On the first one, only shuffle in Weather the Storms, leave mana up, and then, Weather the Storm and gain, let's say, 6 life. Max, with only one copy of Stream of Thought, has to be pretty... judicious with that. And if I only shuffle in a few cards and then I cantrip and I may not be able to win, as Max or Tom as we're calling him. So decides, kind of shows the experience, having prepared, having played this archetype. Okay, I've only got one. In the ideal case, the deck would have 2 maybe, and this would be simple and I could just kind of autopilot this. But I only got one. I have to use it when I need to use it. He decides to go for replicate twice, splice on, shuffle some stuff back, make sure I shuffle the best cards first so I have a higher chance of drawing those, and then just say go, cross my fingers, hope the opponent doesn't draw a creature. I like this play.
He probably needs to do it in a way where his deck ends up bigger and then just win without drawing below.
Roshan looking through, seeing whether the trustworthy scout has been milled, and it has. That's important.
Limited is about attacking and blocking with rubbish creatures, and this is just a whole.
So I think his deck had two cards or maybe 3, and I think the opponent's deck had about 21. Let's say, so 12 would be 13 to 9.
So he's still decking first.
No. He would have 13, the opponent would have 9.
Oh, right, because he gets to shuffle in all those cards.
Right, 4. But if he did it for 8, it would be like 10 to 13, so he'd be losing. So I think probably the third one was necessary, which is why he had to do it and just hope that he didn't
I feel like
leave a creature on top.
A 14-year-old kid who is having their first year on the adults table at Christmas dinner. Oh, that's how I feel right now.
This is awesome magic. There's been strategies like this in limited formats from time to time.
It's like the adults are talking about all these high-minded things, and I want to say something like to impress them that I'm at least a little bit on their level, but like I can't. I'm not even going to try.
I got to be in geography.
Exactly. Do you want me to tell you about Longshore Drift?
I know the capital of 24 states.
We just saw this basically with the Dovin's Acuity deck, the Clear the Mind Dovin's Acuity deck. It's a very similar strategy. You're just trying to play efficient card drawing, good removal, and just mill your opponent by basically just drawing your deck. But so Roshan did whiff. That was a turn where if he had just drawn a creature, the game was over. Answered prayers, not just a 3-mana 3/3 flyer that can't be killed by sorcery speed removal.
Yes, it should have been called unanswered prayers. Hey!
So Max has in his hand the Splicer skill that can make 3/3s, and he very wisely switches gears from milling the opponent out, which would actually require saying go 9 times, and somehow using Weather the Storms to somehow gain enough life to not be able to die to answer prayers. That's possible, but he sees a better line, which is actually to just start cantripping and splice on to Weather the Storms that I find, get a jump in life, get a bunch of golems out, and even though an opponent's at 38, and the commentators are saying the whole game, well, the life total doesn't really matter. Well, Max has 2 win conditions in the deck, essentially. There's the Splicer skill, and there's the Stream of Thought, and here he intends to use both of them. The Stream of Thought to make sure he doesn't actually deck right away, but then the Splicer skill to get on the board. So I think it's really creative how the deck how he's kind of navigated this game. I think you can learn something from seeing him execute a certain game plan, survive as long as I can with Stream of Thought as my last play, deck the opponent, seeing him pivot to survive as long as I can, and then now I can get my Storm spells back in my deck and then splice onto them. And so you're about to see that, but it's just, you want to think about that, zoom in on that. Shifting the game plan, thinking about what are my win conditions, how do they interact, can I use this card just to stay alive instead of just to mill my opponent? So you're seeing a lot of that.
But you do have to also be able to trigger it every turn. And you're going to whiff sometimes, and now it's going to be interesting to see whether Roshan can close this game, because Max has to deck him, so this game's going to take forever, because that's the last mill. He's not closing the damage with a bear and a Pondering Mage.
He also has to be very careful about his deck size. Like there's a clear problem. Like he could be put in a situation where he can't cast enough spells to gain enough life because his cards are actually too good. Like they would draw cards. Like certainly the Everdream.
Yeah, we just see that with a random revelation. I'm almost surprised he shuffled that back in. Like who's decking first now?
Oh, he's got the Blade Splicer thing. The Blade Splicer.
Well,
Splice's skill.
that may make it interesting. That card's going to make several 3/3s. How many cards does Max have in his deck? Like 6 or 7?
Yeah, but the thing is, he can do it again.
Sure, but what happens if a 4/4 comes out? I guess he still has that magnetic sinkhole to work with.
What happens
Which
if a
sinkhole?
4/4 comes out?
I mean, we're at 38 here, not 18.
That is true. 38 is a lot of lives.
I'm not saying who's going to win. I don't really know. I mean, this could easily end up being very close again. Like, this could easily be Max attacking for lethal with 1 or 2 cards left in his deck, or being a few points short on the last turn.
Are we sure he got... It looks like he only has a couple cards in his deck to me.
Yeah, because, I mean, he only shuffled back in up to 8. He played a Reign of Revelation.
Right.
So, I mean, he should have, like, 4 cards left in his deck.
No, he shuffled 12 back in, though, right? He replicated twice.
Well,
we had that whole discussion.
He had the option to shuffle up to 12 back in.
He did. He tapped down to 1 mana, remember?
No, but he didn't have to do all
It's up
4.
to.
That's the thing, yeah.
I understand what you're saying. I misunderstood what you were saying. I thought you were saying he only made 1
I mean,
copy.
look, we don't know the answer to this. I would love it if Max...
His deck
picked
is
up
really
his
small, I know that.
I agree, but I would love it if he picked it up and counted. Like, I have no idea whether it's 3 or 7. We can't know.
Big attacks now for Max Mick. Look at them all getting in there. Double Pondering Mage, Triple Golem, Bear, all getting stuck in here.
Yeah, I mean, that's Splice made 3/3 golems. I mean, that's 3 3/3s he made out of 1 card. That definitely could allow him to close this game in time.
Ooh,
And a Crimson Tusker, hard cast.
It's always hard to cast.
That's true. 7 mana's no joke.
Speaking of no joke, this is only game 1, right?
Did you say?
So Max Mick, and I can delete the Tom Martell joke at this point. I mean, we've beat that into the ground. Max Mick here, I thought played a really impressive game. I thought he was a step ahead of the opponent. I mean, the opponent didn't do anything wrong. Roshan just kind of didn't draw a creature when he needed to. So be it. He was playing kind of face up. But Max was certainly a step ahead of the commentators, who clearly didn't have a lot of experience with the archetype and didn't have access to, oh, well, there's a splicer skill in hand that changes everything. It shows you how a little bit of information can really change your approach to an entire strategy. Does damage matter? Do I need to have 12 cards in my opponent's 9? Is that what I'm focused on? The commentators, to their credit, they didn't know about the splicer skill necessarily. So this is not about like beating them up. It's just about recognizing that Max is maximizing, forgive the pun, just kind of understanding, switching gears, understanding what, how to kind of play all the way down to the bone and have to open up that window where if the opponent has a creature, I lose. But if I get to untap, I'm going to go Weather the Storm because I shuffled those in first. I'm going to splice onto that. So really executed a game plan nicely. Even did the little things. The first Replicate only shuffled 3 cards in since there was 11 in the yard. Those 3 all being Weather the Storm to really, again, increase the odds, make sure that he had access to Weather the Storm so that he could actually do what he was planning on doing, which is next turn getting up to 11 or 14 life, getting 3 or 4 golems. I just really like what Max did. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and kind of learned something from the analysis here. I thought the tactics were a little bit interesting, but this is more about strategy and kind of don't have these blind spots where, I didn't try that. Or, I'm operating my deck as a mill deck, and that's the only mindset I have. You got to be flexible, and you got to be, if something new comes along, look at it with an open mind, and okay, how can I watch this game and learn something? Add that to my game. Next time I play Modern Horizons, maybe I'm not quite ready to be the master of this archetype, but maybe I want to try it. Maybe I want to, take it out for a spin, see if there's been an article written about it. Sam's probably written about it. Go look up that article by Sam Black. Maybe dive in. I mean, you're going to add tools to your tool belt if you're going to watch content in this way. So that's what this series is about. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you enjoyed it. Share it if you enjoyed it. I appreciate it. Leave a comment if you've got something else to say or you got a question for me. I'm happy to answer those questions in the comment section. Thanks.